Thank you, Your Majesty. For what? For being such a cool dude.
Hey everybody, I'm sure you're screaming about that ending to the Walking Dead episode, so we'll break everything down. They did a bunch of comic book Easter eggs, and I'll try to explain why they probably did that ending this soon, because it's relatively early in the run this season. But if you're finding me for the first time, be sure to subscribe to get everything. We're doing Walking Dead all season, and there's new giveaway stuff happening at the end of the video too. So largely it was a Carol Ezekiel episode, so probably the best episode of the season so far, largely because those are two of the best characters on the show. And the show now trades on a lot of character moments like big Ezekiel speeches, and that only works when you have a really awesome character like Ezekiel. But top 10 WTF comic book Easter eggs, here we go. Number 10, the Ezekiel intro. Just a totally mundane look at the regular life he leads as he's putting his costume on to become the king. Like fake it till you make it. So this was a look at him getting ready for a matinee performance. He narrated his backstory to Carol when we got one of those flashbacks, and he just talks about how he used to take care of Shiva as the zookeeper, but he also did those matinee performances. This is like him putting his makeup and his costume on, getting ready to perform for a big crowd of people. Obviously it's his people, but it's still a performance. Fake it till you make it. But number 9, I love the way they opened it with that "We Are One" scene, and then they immediately cut to him crawling out from the pile of bodies like Jon Snow during Game of Thrones. They better thank Kit Harington for that shot when he accepts his Emmy for his performance in this week's episode. Like after season 6, anytime a character crawls out from a giant pile of bodies, all I can think about is Jon Snow now. But it was so great just watching him try to crawl away like he's in this moment of horror. He screams in agony right after doing that big long speech. So the editing can sometimes get a little bit weird with the way they jump around in time, but like I said, because the characters they're using in this episode are so good, it totally works. So I love the way they edited that intro. Number 8 though was Ninja Carol. I'm so happy that she's back. I hated Carol so much last season. Oh, I'm not gonna fight. I'm gonna hide in the cabin off by myself. She's back in it now, she infiltrates them, and isn't it so nice that they all line up for her so that she can take them down with a couple bullets? Remember that scene from the beginning of Avengers Age of Ultron where Captain America puts his shield up, Thor bashes it, and they take down all those troops?
It's like they're lining up.
Well, they're excited.
Number 7 was that cinematic Jerry save. So one, it was a really badass Jerry moment, but the way they shot it was also really awesome too. You just see the camera as the body splits in half for that douchebag savior. The flip side of that is I was actually wondering if they were going to just have Ezekiel try to stall him so that the horde would overtake them and he would waste all his bullets and then Ezekiel could take him down. But it all just feeds into Ezekiel's arc, like him hitting rock bottom and then getting that big call to action again. Although technically by the end of the episode, it seems like he's hit rock bottom again. But number 6, that Ezekiel Carol flashback where they both narrate their backstories a little bit. And if you haven't thought about them in a while, they actually have relatively similar origin stories where they both had to choose to be the hero when given the choice. Carol had to choose to be a badass because her husband Ed was this abusive person. She was a totally different character at the beginning of season 1. So through circumstance, through choice, they became the badasses that they are today. Although Ezekiel is sort of saying, I'm ready for this, so he's not quite the badass that Carol is. But I'm relatively optimistic about his character. So like, he says he's ready, and it's pretty clear that he's not ready because he goes so crazy during the episode. But I think this is all meant to catalyze him, and we will see King Ezekiel again, albeit just a slightly different version, just because the events of this episode shook him so much. And how about all those visual metaphors of the kingdom people following him without question, they're inspired by him, and then continuing to follow him literally as walkers in death. I love the way the Savior threw that in his face. It was a great metaphor because they're in the frame the whole time as they're limping away. You can see how much it tears Ezekiel up because one, he wants to get away from them. They're walkers. They're going to try and kill him. But he also mourns them because just moments ago, they were some of his best friends. But number 5, Jerry and Ezekiel versus the Kingdom Walkers. So Jerry's been a total badass in this episode, but it is a good call to action for Ezekiel. I think he's ready to die in this moment. He's like, this is the end. I'm totally going to die. He had that a couple times during the episode. Just leave me here. I'm done. So at every turn, he tries to get the people to leave him behind. So I think he's actually kind of sad when he survives at the end of the episode. But number 4, Carol lets the Saviors go so that she can save Ezekiel. So immediately in the episode, I was like, okay, this is going to have crazy consequences. It'll weigh on Carol's soul. But the turn was so great. When you hear that rev from the motorcycle and she gives off that wry smile, no, they're not going to get the guns. And then, cut to number 3, that big epic chase scene. Probably one of the best scenes from the episode, aside from the intro and what happened to Shiva at the end. So for as much as people complained about the big action scene against the Saviors in the first episode, this is a scene that The Walking Dead does really well. There aren't that many characters, there aren't that many things to deal with. Just a big stretch of abandoned road. The way they shot it was great. There was epic suspense. The way you think that Daryl's taken out of it, but then the camera pans out and you see him come from behind Rick's car. Then the funny Indiana Jones Last Crusade turn at the end of the episode, because you're like, oh my God, Rick went down with a car. Is he alive? And, just like Indiana Jones, he comes climbing off from the side and they both look down. You look like shit, dude. So I feel like when The Walking Dead is doing a really good job operating on all cylinders, they give you that WTF moment where you're like, oh my God, is the person that we really care about dead? And then they take it back in some funny way. So this was just their Indiana Jones trick that they pulled on you. But number 2 was actually Ezekiel returning at the end of the episode, just really sad that he's still alive and everyone else is dead. Like, you see all their looks on their faces, like they understand instantly that all their loved ones, the fathers, the husbands, they didn't come back because they're dead. And of course, number 1 was the death of Shiva. So I know everybody on Twitter in my feed was just going crazy when this happened. Why are they doing this? What's going on? Well, 1, it was actually straight out of the comics. This is the way that Shiva died when she was saving Ezekiel after a failed attempt to take one of the Savior's bases. So obviously that was the plot of this episode. So they were giving her the comic book death. So if you're wondering why they killed her this early in the season, it's because they did this episode, they did the failed attack this early in the season. If they would have done it later, then she would have died later. But just like in the comics, she dies saving him. And there's this big metaphor with Shiva's blood, like he was talking about the backstory when he jumped into her pen when he was still a zookeeper. He saw her blood and jumped to action. He saw her blood in the sewer. And we just gotta say that the sewer walkers are just a special kind of gross. And there's this actual weird thing that they linger on these hazardous material barrels. A lot of people were wondering about this because this is relatively close to the location where they found the really melty looking walker. What happened to this one? And a bunch of people thought that it might be a tip-off for the Whisperers who cut patches of skin off of dead walkers to make walker camo for themselves. But now because they're spending so much time hyping up this dangerous material, I'm wondering if it also has something to do with that. But let me know in the comments, what was your favorite moment from the episode, or your worst moment, depending on how you think about it? I think for most people, it's probably going to be the death of Shiva, because she's such a cool character, and it's such a bummer for her to go this early in the season. But if she's gonna go, I am happy that they gave her the comic book death. But like I said earlier, probably the best episode of the season. If they can continue doing episodes like this, I feel like they can turn things around, because people seem relatively disappointed with the season so far just after the last couple of episodes. So hopefully they'll turn a corner and we'll see better character work and action like this. We'll see. We got till episode 8 for the mid-season finale. But in related news, I'm doing special Justice League premiere stuff tomorrow. You may have spotted the Punisher ad that they played during the Walking Dead episode. The Punisher is dropping this Friday and the embargo is up, so my non-spoilery review of Season 1 will also post tomorrow. But no spoilers, it was actually a really cool season, so if you really like Shane, you really like the Punisher, all the episodes will be available on Friday. But there's a new round of that Walking Dead giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. Congratulations to the winner from the last video, Kaz Cobb. Please private message me so I can get your contact details. You can click here for all my other Walking Dead videos, and you can click here for my Thor Ragnarok deleted scenes and alternate post-credits video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody stay awesome. I'll see you guys tonight.